Hi, welcome everybody. I am happy to be here with our own Reverend Masando to have a conversation about social uplift in our world and in our church. Welcome, Masando. Glad you're here with us today.
So good to be here. Really excited.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a great conversation. I know a lot of people wonder what social uplift is, and you and I were just talking a few minutes ago about where that concept came from. Do you want to articulate your understanding of that word and that concept?
Yeah, well, it actually came through the Association for Global New Thought. I think they were sort of the first ones to coin that term, which I think does a good job in that it creates some new language that I think seeks to transcend some of the polarizing nature of any social action that we seek to take part in, right? Mm-hmm. And so I like that there's an approach of creating a new term that, was used also by, like Martin Luther King and other folks who have been a part of huge social transformations in our country and in our world, but really seeks to come into this understanding that along our spiritual path, that we can utilize the same spiritual principles that we've used for personal transformation and apply that out to the greater whole. And through our belief in oneness, we recognize that there is no unique one consciousness, that we're all a part of this oneness, this one mind. And so that as we do both our personal work and as we apply these principles to the communities and the neighborhoods and the world and societies that we live in, that we can all be uplifted together, right? And so it's this idea that that through this work that we do both personally and interpersonally and collectively, that we're all uplifted by that.
That's beautiful. Now, if I were someone who was in alignment with this concept of social uplift from the perspective of oneness that you've just articulated, what might be some of the things that I would be interested in doing, and how might I approach them? So in other words, I'm imagining that I wouldn't be out, angrily burning down things and that sort of thing. So articulate for us what social justice type work or social uplift work in the world looks like from that perspective.
Yeah, I think the ways that that our societies go through transformations, I think there's always sort of a season and a time and an approach that really works. And so I want to recognize that all of the ways that social activism has been done in the past and in the ways that it's done currently, and sort of with that vigor that can come, that can feel like fighting against that. Like, I don't feel like there's anything inherently wrong with that. And I really want to uplift the folks that are doing amazing transformative work in their communities and are bringing that kind of energy, because sometimes that fire is needed. Absolutely. Right. But I think, if we're really going to ground ourselves in the principles of oneness, if we're going to take what our founder, Ernest Holmes, said seriously of, show me someone who's for something and against nothing, it really asks us to take an approach that seeks to not to try and change and force things to happen, but to recognize that the world and our societies are all evolving as part of this oneness that we're all experiencing, and that we can seek to be a part of those transformations through a really positive approach, right? And that means that we can, the changes that we're seeking to make in the world, that we can do so that really pulls us towards what we want to create and what we desire to experience collectively, rather than fighting to destroy what is, right? And so it's really seeking to utilize our principles of let's hold the highest vision for the kind of world that we want to see, the kind of world we want to experience, the kind of world we want to create that actually works for everyone, and let that really motivate us to pull us towards, right? Let the vision pull us towards that, rather than just seeking to break down and dismantle what is. Though that work can be really intertwined, right? We need to be very clear-minded about what is, so that we can seek to be pulled towards what can be, right? So we have a clear understanding of that. But that coming from that oneness place really recognizes there's nothing to fight against. It's really asking us to come into higher and higher levels and greater levels of connection and oneness through this work together. So
the place where I think this breaks down a lot of times for people in spiritual community, that they start to feel the divisiveness of politics, number one, and what if your vision of a world that works for everyone is radically different than my vision.
Totally.
That works for everyone.
Yeah.
How do I go about doing what you just described from that place of oneness and live in a place of trust and feel effective? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that word trust is really poignant, actually, because I think anytime we're doing interpersonal and collective and community work, we really need to build trust, right? And the ways that we build trust is building relationships so that we're really clear about the visions that we hold. And not only that we're clear about it, like we're actually connected to it from a place deep within, right? That we have some sort of a personal connection to whatever vision that is based on our experience or our family's experience or something that we've witnessed in our community, so that we're not speaking from a place of this is right and like just a purely moral thing, but it's coming from a felt place that is rooted in actual experience. And so that as we go along and we come up and interact with folks that may not hold the same vision, we're able to share from a place that's real, right? And through those relationship building opportunities that we have in that, our vision may change, right? Because like we may really gain something from another point of view so that our vision can then get a little bit bigger, right? So that it doesn't have to look this particular way. It's not dissimilar than how we hold our personal visions for our life, right? Like we may put all of these little details on how we want the perfect relationship to show up, and they must hold all of these qualities, and it's going to look exactly this way, and this is exactly how it's going to come about. And as we know, right, like often it doesn't work that way. Right? Like, and often it shows up in ways that surprise us and even amaze us. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about the spiritual process, is that there's always something greater than just our unique selves. There's always something greater at work, something greater than ourselves at play. And when we engage with that and when we really give ourselves to that, that's when real power can happen, of power of transformation in our lives and collectively. So, it does actually require us to hold our visions both with great passion, but also with great openness, so that we don't become so close-minded and close out other folks who, also want, great things for our societies and our world, but may have a little different point of view. I think that's sort of how our country was even meant to be. Like, we're meant to be in dialogue, we're meant to be in debate. And if we can practice that, I think then we do justice to, the Constitution and all of the ways that we've been asked to become engaged citizens. So yeah, it requires us to also be in conversation with and build relationships with folks that may not have the same point of view. And that actually grows us, right? And that helps us. The echo chambers keep us, if we're only talking to people who have the same beliefs and the same political affiliations, we're probably going to close ourselves off, and our visions are probably going to stay smaller than they could if we're really interacting with each other.
And true progress can't happen. One of the things that I think you've articulated here, and to me, when you and I have talked very well, which I really resonate with, is that the solutions that are going to help us really evolve in our world are probably above and beyond all the current ideas. And the only way to get to those is to not be arrogant enough to think that the way that I see things is the one and only way. And yet I'm gonna step forward and be a stand for for the higher ideals of what I think we've articulated here at Mile High Church. You know, things about the ecology and you know, respect and honoring of all beings and of all faiths, things like that. And in those broad, transcendent ideals, walk forward with a listening heart and an open mind, so that I can meet people who may believe differently than me in other faith traditions and weave connection versus separation. So you articulated that beautifully.
Yeah, and I think it there's something in us that knows and feels and resonates with that way of going about it, right? Like, I think we really are motivated by experiences that create connection. Like experiences that grow us, experiences that open our minds a little bit. And especially, I think, within spiritual communities and within centers for spiritual living and here at Mile High Church, I think most of the people that are drawn to these kinds of spiritual communities, like, have a deep value for that, have a deep value for connection, have a deep value for growth, have a deep value for greater visions and greater experiences in their lives, right? And so as we go about holding the vision for what can be, we have to keep open and allow even the experiences of disconnection to be an invitation towards deeper connection, right? Because I think anytime we're not experiencing that oneness, anytime we're not experiencing a connection, that's, to me, is always an invitation to, like, even in this experience of human life, the divine God exists. And so it's our job, it's like there, whether we're experiencing it or not, and it's our job to do our work so that we can experience that and then create more of that in the world.
Yeah. It's the unity and the diversity. And I always remind myself that Ernest Holmes admonished us to say, hey, oneness doesn't equal sameness. Right?
Yes.
I can be one with you and we are not the same in respects, right? But I can still feel one with you and move forward in our life together from that perspective of oneness, just like you articulated about a holy, sacred relationship, and actually celebrate and learn from and deepen because of the dissonance or the contrast that exists between us, but not have to make you wrong for that contrast, to somehow be able to respect and honor you even in the midst of that.
No doubt. And you know,
that's the most like deep, profound work we do on a daily basis.
No doubt.
We're driving around here at Target, at Starbucks, or Beloved, or we're looking at solving the problems of the world. This is the sacred work.
No, it's literally the same, right? I love how, you know, the microcosm and the macrocosm, those same patterns are really existing all at once, right? So we can utilize our personal lives as models for how we go about social and interpersonal transformation together. And to me, that's one of the most beautiful things about life itself. Like, that's an expression of this deep oneness and the deep interconnection that exists throughout all of life, right? And so, you know, and I also recognize some of the things that happen just within our brains, right? Like, I really enjoy studying, you know, what's happening at the neurological level often when we're coming into a situation where someone doesn't agree with us, right? Like the experience of cognitive dissonance is something that I even learned about in college, right? Or in ministerial school, which basically is this phenomenon that when you're in a conversation or and talking to someone who has a different point of view than you, no amount of data really is probably going to change the point of view of either one of you. And because you're experiencing cognitive dissonance, what your brain is doing is seeking to like create like a fluid view of the world, which is like a survival kind of thing. And so what your brain wants to do is like double down, actually, on what you believe,
times, isn't it?
right? So it takes effort. Like, I'm not gonna lie about that. It takes some effort to continue to keep an open mind, and I think more importantly, an open heart. Right? Because I think what's happening is some part of ourselves is feeling threatened. And so anytime we're feeling threatened, or anytime I know I'm feeling threatened, like, I want to shut down. right? And my heart wants to shut down, and that really inhibits any kind of possibility of connection, of understanding, of a greater opening happening in that moment. And so, it's a spiritual practice in that way. It's like a spiritual practice is recognizing when that's happening, and then coming into a place where like, oh, like I'm tripping right now, like I'm shut down. Let's come back, right? Let's come back to this moment. Let's come back to what I know is an openness that I know always exists, and that to me is why a lot of this work really propels us along the spiritual path, because it offers us even more opportunities to recognize when we're shutting down, when we're cutting ourselves off from someone else and from the divine itself, and then coming back into the present moment, where we can then access that again and make room for it to show itself again.
A very powerful spiritual practice for every realm of life, for sure.
No doubt.
How do you see this notion of social uplift continuing to manifest in the life of our work here at Mile High Church? What kinds of things are we envisioning we would be doing?
Well, I just think that we're going to build on all that has already taken place, and that's what always happens, right? And so much amazing things have been happening here already, including many of the ministries like the Make a Difference team that has been doing incredible work out in our community, and our interfaith ministry that has been building relationships with other faith groups and other folks that are doing great work in our local communities here. And then as well as these social stands that were really developed here that recognize that, as people who believe in oneness, as folks who believe in personal transformation, as folks who really understand the interconnectedness of all things, there's a few social stands that even Dr. Roger helped to articulate that if we are really about this teaching and this philosophy and this idea of oneness, like these are some natural outpicturings of some social stands that we really naturally flow out of those beliefs. And so, the social stands of interspiritual or interfaith work and recognizing that there is no one faith or one belief system that is better or more true than others. Like, I think that's one of the things that really attract people to Mile High, right? Is the fact that we really do honor all faiths, and we recognize that there is deep wisdom and truth in all of the wisdom traditions throughout our history. That to me is a beautiful thing, and a way in which I think Mile High has been a leader in so many ways, right? And then as well as this environmental sustainability, right? Like just this fact that like not only are we connected to each other, but we're connected to the planet itself, like this thing that sustains all life. And so recognizing that relationship and seeking to be in good relationship and taking care of that makes sense, right? So, we're doing great like personal or we're doing some great organizational things here with composting, and I know Todd just switched out all of the lights in the parking lot to LEDs, which seem like simple things, right? But it's just kind of proof that like we believe in this, and so this is how we're going to show that and demonstrate that, right? And so I think there's lots of opportunities for that to grow, both in how we're practicing that on campus, but then how we're interacting with other faith communities that are doing larger things to help demonstrate that, right? And so I see us continuing our work with other faith communities, but not just for interfaith understanding, but for doing some great work out in the world. And so that's a lot what I've been doing in my first year, is developing these relationships with other folks, in Lakewood and Denver who want to get together. Because as we know, as we build relationships, that helps us to build more power and have a greater voice in the world. And so I think as we develop those relationships and as we invite more people to be a part of that, then it will naturally grow to take some larger actions out of there. And then our last social stand is human dignity for all, right? And I think that's a really natural one. I think that's close to all of our hearts. And, we've been such an inclusive and affirming community and, really a movement and denomination from our history, right? Like, Ernest Holmes and that school were some of the first, we were some of the first to, ordain female ministers, right? And we've had very thriving LGBTQ communities, in every single church that I've ever been to within our movement. And so it's just building on that and continuing to build on this fact that, like, we believe the divine abides and is really the truth of every single person. And so how do we uphold that? And how do we create human dignity for all? And so I see us continuing to build on that and, and holding a place for us to really make sure that we're standing for that in the world.
Good. So are there specific things? I know you've got classes, workshops. Are you planning to, take people out into the world to do specific things? Just give us a kind of a sense of how will we treat and move our feet in this regard?
Yeah. So something I think would be great to do is something that I've been working on is helping to define what community partnerships are, right? Like, but there's a lot of organizations that we've been working with through our Giving Tree program, through our school supply drives, that are really doing social uplift work in the world. And so I think one of the greatest things that we can do is to invite our folks to actually go out into our communities, right? And to serve in that way. So we've been working with the Action Center, and it's been on the Take Action calendar. There's opportunities to go and volunteer, at the Action Center. And it does a couple of things when we take that step to serve outside the walls of Mile High Church, because we want to do both. We want to serve here and we want to serve outside the walls. But what it allows us to do is, one, it helps us support those organizations that we come into partnership with. And that partnership really is an idea that our vision and mission aligns with another vision and mission, right? And so that we can do work together that supports both of our communities. And so as we go and, provide some volunteer work at the Action Center, and the Action Center, for those who don't know, is in Jefferson County, one of the main resource and service providers for folks that are experiencing poverty and folks that are experiencing homelessness or who are unhoused, or those who may be food insecure. And really serves this whole Jefferson County area, but is right also just like our neighbor right down the block. And so what that allows us to do is, oftentimes when we do a school supply drive or when we do a food drive, we just bring food to donate, but then we don't really know what happens after that, right? And we don't really have any interaction with the folks, who we're seeking to serve. And I think, so I invite everybody, anytime you see an opportunity to volunteer at the Action Center coming up, just to sign up, because it also allows you to have an experience and to build a relationship with folks that are part of our community, like part of our neighborhood. And we may have, even if we're like the best person in the world, we may have some stigmas around folks that are experiencing homelessness, and or folks that may be in a different socioeconomic class, right? And we may not even know they're there. But going in and volunteering and interacting with folks in the community gives us some direct experience there. So maybe some of that will come up. But more importantly, I think we come to recognize that, like, the very folks we're seeking to serve, like, have so much to offer us, have so much to teach us. And then that gives us an actual experience of this oneness that we like to talk about. And so that we're coming from a place where we're not the ones that are just like giving something to someone else and like feeling good about that, that we're actually coming into relationship, like that important part, and really experiencing like this unique interconnection. Yeah. And that to me is huge, right? And so for me, and that happens with, you know, in our interfaith work and interacting with folks who come from different faith traditions as their own. Some of us may come from a Christian tradition growing up and may even still have some wounds or some things that we have some resentments about that tradition, right? And so as we do interfaith work and start interacting with Christians and folks that still have that belief, also offers up us an opportunity to like, oh, this is a good person, even though they don't have the same exact beliefs. And actually, wow, the way they live out their faith is really beautiful, right? And so again, really the juice of all of this is and the gifts of all of this are in these relationships that we get to build through this work.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I think that people can find out more about steps that we are taking on the Take Action calendar that we produce, right?
Yep.
And then, watching bulletins and the website for announcements about classes, courses, workshops, that sort of thing. So that's how people can stay in touch with the movement on this. Is there anything else that you want our community to know about this work before we sign off on this this conversation?
Yeah, you know, I think for me, one of the most important things is to know is that there's no political agenda as we go about this work, like whatsoever. You know, I have family members that are both Democrats and Republicans. Yeah. And what I know is that we're so gifted by having different points of view. And we're so gifted by having different experiences. We're so gifted by the different cultures that we come from. And as we begin to recognize how amazing the diversity of the world is, we come into a deeper experience of that oneness. And that includes political diversity. And so, you know, I think the question is, you know, there's really a question of how this deepens me as a person. And to me, it's been some of the most deepening spiritual work that I've done. Right? Because we can't fake it when we're in relationship with folks. We have to show up and then do our personal work and then continue to show up so that we can get into good relationship over and over and over again, and let that be an expression of the oneness that we really believe. And so to me it took me from a theory of oneness to a deep experience of it. And that to me is the greatest motivating factor for this work. Is if we want a real experience of that thing, this is a beautiful way to do it.
Yeah. And let's not forget the independents and the libertarians and all the other
Of course, yeah. Colorado, actually, we have a huge libertarian contingent, especially in Jefferson County. Yeah, it's really, it's actually, I think it's one of the really cool and fascinating parts of living in Colorado. It's amazing that way. We're in the West, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I totally agree with you. Our teaching is such that we are, I've heard Dr. Michael Beckwith talk about how we're trans-denominational, and I feel like we're trans-political. We rise above.
We are,
you know,
we totally are.
And want to support people to come together and to know how to step forward in powerful ways that will allow them to impact the things that are important to them. So
that's right.
Well, thank you so much for taking this time with me and
so much
for our community. And we certainly hope that this helps to clarify for anyone who's watching what we have planned for the future and what we're talking about here when we talk about social uplift. Thank you so much, Reverend Masando.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.